Hey, welcome, welcome. Happy New Year, everyone. This is the first show of our new year of 2014, and we're very enthused about this year because the things that we believe in, in collaborative and building partners, and we want to start this thing out right. So I got my partner. I got Julia's coming in from Hanover, Griffin, and so we're going to partner up, and we invited a guest. Because we both thought that, I have broken more resolutions over the New Year's about healthy eating and active living. I'm supposed to be walking, and I'm supposed to be drinking so much water a day, like I have a glug of water. I have so many things I have broken in the past, but I'm not going to do that this year. This is the year that I stay with my resolutions and start out right. Julie and I have a guest, and it's Kristen Coats with HEAL. And so we're going to talk about how to be healthy and how to be active and how to have a better life in 2014 for all of us. So with that, Julia, how do you see this business of this year that's coming before us and our desire to be healthy and active?
My big challenge as a town manager and a busy town manager is I'm not always very good about taking care of myself. I take care of lots of other people. And so my family got me a Fitbit for Christmas. Ooh. My goal, I do treadmill workouts, but I always struggle to get those 10,000 steps a day. If I'm really lucky, maybe I can get 7,500 steps a day, but that extra 2,500 requires some additional commitment on my part. So with my Fitbit, I'm trying to do the 10,000 steps a day personally, and my son, who's a 17-year-old, has agreed he's going to try and match my workout with his Fitbit. He's a fit kid and he's an athlete, so it's not like he's in trouble. But but I told him I needed somebody to coordinate Fitbits with, and we figured out together how to work our Fitbits. So
very cool. Well, I have a physician, a very nice physician. He's kind of tough, but I have a dietitian from Dr. Hitchcock that I've engaged in an ongoing conversation about my issues. Yep. So I've been doing different things. Things come up. She suggested things like, a kind of a raw form of oatmeal. She likes that idea, and she gave me the idea of how to change the number of vegetables had by cutting up vegetables and putting a little spray on them, and then putting them in underneath the grill. Yeah. And grill them, and then I mix them up. I grilled turnips and sweet potatoes and some other things, and carrots, and just to add to try, because I eat raw vegetables and so she did that, and then I got me a Fat Boy bike. And it's called, it's a pure sport, which is built for people that perhaps want to get back into biking. I used to be a real biker in my day. And I named it Clarabelle, so I personified it. Clarabelle and I, she's kind of off, yellowy, greeny. She's not very pretty. But she is very, very, very strong. And I then, according to the physician who brought along, as Dr. Hitchcock did, they have these wonderful medical students who comes in first. Yeah. And they come in and they said, well, I tried to ask me about my fitness. And I said, well, I'm trying to do this and this, but I'm kind of. And then he goes, well, you ought to bring Clarabelle in the house and put a trainer on her. So I went over and I got me a trainer. Now Clarabelle's in the living room. So, I am, engaged here.
Go, Greg, go.
Going for it. But enough of our frivolous stuff here, Kristen. Tell us about yourself a little bit, and tell us about HEAL, and then let's talk about, what's the kind of things that all of us should be thinking about in terms of tackling this year.
Well, thank you for having me, Greg. I'm excited to be here with both of you. I love both of your town and obviously the city of Lebanon, which I live in. But I'm actually from the Northwest, so I grew up in Washington State and northern Idaho. Oh, wow. So I really had a great playground growing up, and I really developed a strong love for nature right away, and so recreation was obviously a part of that. So did a lot of hiking and biking and swimming and tennis, and so it was just kind of a natural fit when I applied for the position at Dartmouth Hitchcock through the Children's Hospital, that HEAL was kind of what I did, and I felt like I could really walk that out. And really the key that I've found with the Healthy Eating Active Living Partnership is that word partnership. it really sets the tone for how do we develop healthy people and healthy places. And we do that through partnership. You know, we do that on an individual level, asking a friend to go for a walk with us, or talking to a physician about changing the way that we do one thing differently in our eating plan.
Yeah.
So what HEAL does is we really try to engage families, adults and children in how to access and also realize the assets in their community. I mean, we have amazing resources in the Upper Valley.
Yeah.
We have amazing parks and trail systems, and even things that are being developed like the Mascoma River Greenway.
Yeah.
So these are all assets. I think one of the key issues, and you guys have kind of highlighted it, is that taking or having the amount of time to stay fit, and even knowing what's out there. You know, where do I access a safe lit walking trail? Where do I go if I want to take my family and enjoy a day in the park? Those are things that people tend to say, I have this ambition, I want to be fit, I don't exactly know how to do it. And so what we try to do is we champion organizations in the Upper Valley that want to expand their health outcomes and create those healthy places and healthy people. So it might be as simple as working with a school and trying to say, okay, what are the assets around your campus that we could highlight? Are there trails that can be developed? We've got a partnership with Upper Valley Trails Alliance. We could come in and we could facilitate that meeting, and then we could see what ways can we bring trail systems into your school, and how can we partner with you in that area? We do a lot of just kind of technical assistance with schools and early care providers. The early care providers, I'm telling you, they have done amazing work these past 4 years, and kids are now getting not just used to the idea, but expecting to have more fruits and veggies in their diet at their child care center, whole grains and low fat to skim milk. So those changes, although they've been small over the course of 3 to 4 years, have really added up to, we're seeing increases in fruits and veggies and whole grains. I mean, per week, it's just outstanding. We've kind of crunched the numbers, and
that's great.
It's been really interesting. So I'd say the key is partnership on an individual level as well as a community-based level. But really what we try to do is we try to build community capacity so that we can help people, help organizations become healthy places, and a place that we really enjoy living and working and being active in. So those are some of the things.
That's nice. From Hanover's perspective, Julia, what are the things that you think about in terms of Hanover and approaching this issue? And it's an impressive. I'm so impressed with Hanover all the time because I see so many things going on.
Well, but that doesn't mean we can't continue to do more, Greg. As Kristen's talking, I'm thinking a little bit about, I'm envisioning the recreation map, as it were, that's a combination guide to resources and facilities all on one piece of paper, accessible on our website for the folks who want to figure out how to get started. We've certainly got an extensive trail network, and between our own Trails Committee, the Upper Valley Trails Alliance, the Hanover Conservancy, the Upper Valley Land Trust, and our own Conservation Commission, we are constantly working on a very small budget to enhance and sort of focus on trail improvements. And our schools are fairly proactive. But I think they're also thinking increasingly about how do we incorporate healthier diets into the schools, how do we make the connection between after school time and healthy habits rather than after school time sitting in front of a computer. We certainly, from the town's perspective, are looking at some additional park enhancements because we're trying to encourage people to get outside and recreate in the non-formal sense, and by that I mean we've got plenty of sports teams, and kids can play on recreation department teams for all comers or sign up for an AAU basketball team, but kids to a certain extent are losing the ability to just go out and play in nature. And gosh knows we're surrounded by lots of open space where they can do that. So how do we encourage that is one of the issues that we're tackling in the recreation
that's
department.
really interesting. I don't know what some suggestions might be in terms of that encouragement. I know that Lebanon, we've been thinking about integrating walkabouts and walking in different types of activities. I know they had a walk around the footprint of the Mascoma Greenway plan to put that pathway in. We had a walkabout on Mechanics a while back. We went on every night, about 6 nights. And I know that we've had people want to walk about and show the things that are kind of the wild things in Lebanon. We have some volunteers who do that sort of thing. And then our rec program, of course, encourages the walking and the cross-country skiing when available and that sort of thing. Things from your perspective, Kristen, that we should be trying to do that as far as our youth. And it sounds like your program's already addressing trying to start young. And but there's different stages. Sometimes different stages of people's development, and it is a very challenging thing to compete with computers and basically pads anymore, or even smartphones. People are just fixated on it, and there needs to be more balance.
Yeah, I think balance is key. We talk about calorie balance, we talk about time management, there's a lot of things that we need to balance during our day. And we did really decide that we wanted to be very intentional with the early pre-K age, because that's where those habits develop. Now, obviously, we all have our own habits, and we can change them, and we can sometimes feel like we have to change them, or other times we feel like we want to change them. But I think with the early care and the after-school care, those age groups are really key, because those are the ages where you're teaching them that, yes, snacks can be healthy, fruit can be tasty, water can be a good hydration drink, but the adults need to model that. So it's not just teaching the kids about that. We've actually gone into the early care centers and we've taught teachers how to talk about food. So how do you talk about food in a positive way? Even if you don't like that food, how do you talk about it in the sense that I'm going to try it? And some of the pediatricians at DHMC have said kids need to have an opportunity to try food at least 14 times. And in those times,
to develop a taste for that food?
Yeah, and it needs to be maybe one time it's raw, maybe one time it's sauteed, it might be on the grill, just a different way. And you're giving that child the opportunity to decide for themselves, do I like this food? So it's part of the process. But what we've seen in the early care centers is by reducing and eliminating some of those things that were causing not just nutritional deficits, but also budgetary deficits, where eliminating the purchase of juice frees up their budget so that they can actually purchase whole foods, which is really nice. The other partnership that we just are thrilled about is through Willing Hands. And Willing Hands has partnered with some of our early care centers. So they deliver, once a week boxes of produce, and those centers can now make stews and enjoy the fruit and the produce, and they can even freeze some of it to make, later down the road. That's where HEAL really tries to come in. We try to develop those relationships so that we know about Willing Hands, we know that there's an early care center in need, but we also know that there might even be barriers. So for instance, one early care center said, we'd love to have Willing Hands deliver. We can't store all of the produce that they give to us. We need just like a freezer. And so we said, well, we'll give you a modest mini grant so that you can purchase that freezer. So now they can store everything that they need, continue to use it and not let any of the food go to waste. And that's just one way that we try to leverage in helping that partnership. But really our hope is to influence policy, practice change in the built environment. So you've talked about kind of how do you motivate families and adults. And I think it's orienting them toward what is available in their community. So you've touched on it, Julia, making it really easy to know what's going on in your community. Making sure people, all residents, know that there's a program guide to your recreation department, that it's easily accessible online. You can walk in and grab it. I've utilized both your town and obviously through LebRec. But those are gems. It's not only for young kids, but it's also for adults. And like you talked about, the Wild About Lebanon.
Yes.
Go out, learn about the off-roads of Lebanon and these beautiful natural resources that we don't always take for granted or take advantage of.
Yeah, that's really nice. You think about the places people are, and that's the kind of so we need to kind of fill those places up with some of the things that might help in terms of the quality of our lives.
Exactly.
And we spend so much time at work. I mean, that's just it's our proportional in terms of our pie chart about how we spend 24 hours often kind of get really twisted up. So I definitely think that the schools, and earlier than the schools, the early childhood programs and the preschool programs and those child care centers and things, those places where we are. And then the work setting where we are so much is that we need to figure out how we can provide the opportunity in the work session to make some choices, to learn some things. I know that we find that partnering with other places where other ideas are there, then some of the associations we belong to. I know this year we're trying to do the Slice of Life effort, which is something that's put out by our New Hampshire Trust program that we belong to in terms of our cities and towns. And that's kind of reaching out, and that includes facets of biometrics, of trying people to measure where you're at. Because it's really easy, if you don't kind of look in front of you as to what maybe what the metrics are as an adult, is that kind of you can just kind of it's hard to look in the mirror. I mean, you just kind of understand yourself, and I think that's something I like about this latest Slice of Life program. But
know your metrics.
Know your metrics.
Know your BMI. Know your
like I check my blood
levels.
pressure every day. I check my weight every day. I mean, some people say don't do that, but I do because I want to know the metrics. I can tell when I can tell when I have a night meeting that I've got out of hand. That these night meetings drive me crazy, and because it leaves you kind of exhausted or too exhilarated, or you've got your adrenaline flowing from these night meetings, and then you go home and you're very susceptible to issues. And that's one of my biggest foibles as a manager, is those night meetings. So I think that's all the employees have different things. Some of our employees are remarkably fit, but some of us sit in front of computers a lot. Some of us sit in meetings a lot. So not every job is one that's oriented toward fitness, and it's really interesting. I know that we've been working with some private corporations, and I see some of the private corporations kind of stepping out there and kind of doing some very interesting things. And there's some lively, creative people in both our communities who are in the private sector. I know that they're trying to do things. So we're trying to learn from as many sources as we can, and the places we are, try to turn it into a better orientation toward active living and healthy eating.
I think that's exactly it. And if you envision the healthiest population possible, obviously you working in municipality, you realize that it can't just be one spoke. It can't just be municipality. It needs to be restaurants. It needs to be schools. It needs to be recreation centers. It needs to be workplaces. So when all of these sectors of influence can be in line and in unison, it doesn't mean that everybody's doing everything perfectly, but they're taking those steps. They're moving forward. And I think we're seeing that little by little in the Upper Valley. You've got Hypertherm, which is an outstanding institution. in their mission statement, they include the well-being of their employee. And so we've been able to partner with Hypertherm in a food queuing system called Easy Choices, where when their associates go into the lunchroom, they have just a few items that are flagged that this is a lower calorie item, lower sodium, lower fat. It's just one way that they're trying to say to their associates, we value you, we value your health, we want to inform you. So if you envision walking around your community, you're saying it is hard to, you sit in an office all day, but what about allowing yourself to have a movement break? So you walk out and you have that beautiful green in Hanover, or you have a really easy access to a trail. It doesn't mean you're going to go for a half hour.
Right.
It might be 5 intentional minutes where you're really focusing physically and, emotionally you're saying, okay, I'm going to work this out. And you have the Mascoma River Greenway that's being developed and, the extension to the rail trail. You've got Colburn Park. You've got Canilla's Garden where you can go and look at, beautiful flowers and vegetables. Those are things that we have to be intentional about. But if we envision that healthiest population possible, it's those partnerships that we leverage off one another. And so when we can do that, when I go to maybe down the road when I go to a convenience store, there's going to be a pyramid of water in front of me versus some of the other beverages. It might be that there's a big box of fresh produce from a local farm that he's in partnership with the convenience store. So there's a lot of things that have already been done, but there's a lot more that we want to do. And I think one of the biggest concerns we have is access to fresh food in some of the Mascoma towns, because they really have what I would call a food desert. And so, they have to travel up to an hour or an hour and a half round trip to get to a grocery store. So that's a really big objective, is to try to help these towns have better access to fresh foods, better access to recreation, and to have that balance of, yes, let's do some rec activities and some school sports, but let's also teach parents on how can you go out and just really enjoy the outdoors. And some of that is simply having someone teach you how to go on a hike, or take you out into the wild about Lebanon and show you trails that you can then go back to with your family.
With your own accord.
So a lot of it has to do with modeling and how are we modeling as a municipality, or how are we modeling as a school, or if I'm a business owner, how am I modeling to my community that I really do value health and activity. So everybody plays a part, and you can never say, oh, that person has nothing to do with a healthy community. It's just everybody is a part of it, and that's what I love, and that's why this partnership has been successful, is that we have so many great community partners that have health in mind, that we can overlap and we can collaborate. And I was looking at the show that you two did from last year, and you made a comment about the carbon footprint, and you said if people would just reduce the use of their personal automobile by 2%, it would just be significant, So you think about your own health. If you can increase, your water consumption, if you can decrease some of the sugar-sweetened beverages, or if you can increase one new veggie a week, those end up to be really significant changes over the course of time.
They do. And the farmers marketing, the idea of marketing, of markets out in your communities in various sundry logical places. If you can figure some of that out. I've seen some patterns, here obviously our farmers market is important to us in Lebanon. It's a very wonderful endeavor. But I've seen some communities, have more, the expansion of those opportunities has been something that some communities have adopted as a way of looking at things, because and it brought out things like you walk to the farmer's market. And that the farmer's market, then you could have good produce, and there probably can be access to other healthy food. And it can be involved in types of activities that raise the activity level. And so I just, and the accompanying of music, in a healthy environment, because the relaxation of the music and put that into kind of, so you start seeing the physical side, and you also start seeing the better eating side of healthier eating by having fresh produce. And I think that's something that, is something that was well worth exploring, and I think is attractive, that it might attract some people into that environment that might not otherwise be there sometimes. And so I'm interested in that, and then if you could walk between it. And I think about our pathways between ourselves, our pathways on the 120.
Yep.
And our shared, the idea of shared biking, the idea of walks.
Yep.
Those kind of things
Critical.
that are a possibility. And those are interesting ideas. I know there's some communities that develop this thing about the spinning, the spinning, and they provide opportunities for people to engage in spinning.
Right.
And especially in communities that might have maybe some weather that might be an inhibitor, and ice and snow can, for some of us, it makes us kind of edgy to think, we're out there on the ice and snow. It's like, this is not, I cannot, I have to be at work. I cannot have any slip and falls. I cannot do that. I have to be at work.
Right.
But so somehow I think we need to find that spot. I do miss a little bit about as much accessibility to some swimming type activities, which might be water aerobics, might be lap swimming, it might be, there's some other exercise programs with regard to water. I know that in some of the Midwestern parts, and both Julie and I have been around a few places, and we see in different places, but out in the Midwest, out there on the plains when it's cold and it's pretty miserable sometimes, I've seen some tendency to want to put together water exercise areas. And it's really a community kind of a water program, aqua program. And that wouldn't be that would be kind of an interesting idea. It would open up, because water can expose people to exercise that might not otherwise be exposed to it. There's so many interesting features about water and resistance by water. So.
One of the neat things that Canaan and Enfield have done recently is they're now sharing a recreation coordinator. And so the first initiation was to actually share their lifeguards. So they were able to then open the Canaan Street Lake again, provide lifeguard services, provide swim lessons. And again, like you're saying, this is something that is very rich in the life of, families and kids knowing how to swim. And it's been neat to see the way those towns have really shared those resources. And so they are able to envision some of the things that you're saying about swimming and
Well, just keep your ideas
water.
percolating, keep our ideas percolating. I mean, Storrs Hill,
Yep.
and then there's just different pathways. The outside ice, when available.
Right, and
those are just interesting possibilities.
We're seeing those small neighborhood outside ice skating rinks are cropping up in Hanover. We now have 4 of them. Those are new.
That's terrific.
But kids are getting out on the ice. The fire department's helping to flood the rinks and get those kids outside.
Well, it's kind of, this is so much fun and talking about this. I think our time is kind of flying by us. I'm sure I've kind of lost track of how much time we have left, actually. I don't know. But I think we're kind of getting to the point that we should probably wrap up. And things that you would leave the public with thinking about from your perspective will go. I think from my perspective is that we need to find more about these opportunities and how we can help, especially the youth and the really young children, and be supportive of these kind of activities. Julia, from your perspective?
I'm thinking more about how we package the opportunities together in a format that's easy for families to access, so that if they're looking for something to do on a Saturday morning, our website says, did you know that this Saturday the following 6 things are going on that may interest you and your family? And we've had an increasing number of families ask for us to think about putting together an Upper Valley-wide family calendar, because they're looking for outside activities or indoor activities to do with kids. So we're starting to have that conversation with the Hanover Chamber in terms of how can we create a one-stop calendar for the Upper Valley that would allow organizations to get the word out about healthy activities that are going on that people can join in.
That's great.
Those are great.
And from your perspective, and,
Yeah.
and from a HEAL perspective,
I
what
would
do you
say-
think would be the things we should most think about?
Yeah, HEAL and the Children's Hospital at Dartmouth, I think the biggest thing is that our aim is to make the easy choice the healthy choice.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, it has to do with orientation. It has to do with people knowing where they can access things. But also it just happens to be where, as a partnership, we really want not only institutions and organizations to practice these steps, but we really want at an individual level. And so I think it is important that towns and cities are modeling these things so that the individual can then start adopting some of these healthy resolutions. But it's as simple as deciding I'm going to drink one more glass of water a day than I do usually, or asking a friend to go on a walk twice a week. So it's these little steps that really add up to a great deal, and it leads us toward the healthiest population possible. So.
Greg, the pressure's on us to exercise some leadership in this area.
Well, let's just get in there and slog. And
You know, I have a bike and a trainer. Maybe we can log some trainer miles and
Yeah,
keep each other-
We'll
Competition is
keep
good.
track.
Yeah,
We got to measure everything.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for being here, and Julia and I thank our communities for allowing us to serve, and we really appreciate HEAL and the efforts that they're doing to try to bring us all to maybe a more enlightened thinking about how healthy eating might be in our lives and how active living can serve us so well. So. Thanks for everything. It's a great way to start off a new year. It perks me up. Gets the adrenaline flowing. We'll get into 2014 and we'll make it the best yet for Lebanon and for Hanover, right, Julia?
Right,
All
absolutely.
right. We're going to have a good one. So you take care, and we'll see you at the next show.